Switching gears now to the race for president. Back in 2015, when Donald Trump was first running for president, he tried to assure voters repeatedly that he respects women.
I cherish women.
I respect women more than I respect men. Are the men insulted by that, by the way? No. See, they all say no. But I have great respect, admiration, and I cherish women.
Bizarre? Yes. Creepy? Kind of. But many women actually bought it. In fact, he got the majority of votes from some groups of women, including middle-aged white women. Now, facing an uphill battle against Vice President Kamala Harris, he is leaning into that old rhetoric again, except now it's actually turbocharged.
You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared. You will no longer be in danger. You're not going to be in danger any longer. You will no longer have anxiety from all of the problems our country has today. You will be protected, and I will be your protector. Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free.
Now, he has ramped up his unhinged, paternalistic pledge quite a bit in recent weeks, not just at rallies, but also on his failed social media site, too. Let's remember who we're talking about here. This man, the self-proclaimed protector of women, has been accused of sexual assault and harassment by at least 26 women since the 1970s. A man who was found liable, legally liable, for sexually abusing writer E. Jean Carroll in 1996. The judge later clarifying that what Trump did was in fact rape. A man who at every turn takes responsibility for the overturning of Roe versus Wade, which has left millions of women in this country vulnerable to healthcare emergencies and in some cases even death. So when you hear that track record, and then you hear this.
I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am.
The comments don't just ring hollow. They actually are quite sinister. One columnist at New York Magazine made the blunt observation. He sounds like a domestic abuser. Trump is casting himself as a kind of husband to America's women and presents himself as the solution to all of their problems that he imagines they're having in their lives. To him, their, quote, anxiety is being misdirected into the belief that they want abortion to be legal. But instead, he insists, their real problems are loneliness and abandonment, something Trump can fix if they give themselves over to him. And he can't even fathom that women wouldn't like him.
I always thought women liked me. I never thought I had a problem. But the fake news keeps saying women don't like me. I don't believe it.
Well, it's quite clear he doesn't believe it. That kind of overconfident, sexist, head-in-the-sand approach has helped shape his campaign strategy over the past several months. He's been on what one could call the dude influencer circuit, chatting it up on podcasts with the likes of Logan Paul, Aiden Ross, Kyle Forgard, all of them men, many of them young men, and fueled by a narrow old world view of masculinity. And no big surprise here, 7 of the 9 podcasts that he has appeared on recently have audiences that are overwhelmingly entirely men. Trump appears to also be drawing from even darker misogynistic corners of the internet. A report by Wired suggests that he and his close allies are taking notes from the influencer and accused human sex trafficker Andrew Tate. Tate has said that women who don't have children are, among other things, miserable and stupid. Sound familiar? Well, the resurfaced comments from J.D. Vance about childless cat ladies have shown that Trump's running mate is on the exact same wavelength. It's no wonder Trump's recent message to women in this country are so small-minded and paternalistic. He's immersed in a cesspool of highly misogynistic men. But here's the thing. Despite that, just like in 2016, some women are still trending towards voting for Trump. Even though Harris has a slight edge over Trump with women voters, a recent Quinnipiac University poll shows that Harris's lead on Trump with women voters has dropped by 9 points in the last month alone. To help us make sense of all of this are Liz Plank, MSNBC columnist and author of For the Love of Men, and MSNBC's Molly Jong-Fast, political analyst. She's also host of the Fast Politics podcast and a special correspondent for Vanity Fair. Do you feel protected by Donald Trump, Molly?
What kind of question is that? I'm excited to not have anxiety. What did he say? There are a lot of good promises. Healthy, confident, won't worry. There was another speech where he said no one's ever going to think about abortion again.
Yes.
Right. I mean, look, Donald Trump is clearly seeing internal polling that's showing that women are not having it, right? And that this double down strategy, I mean, basically what Trump learned in 2016 was that he could get these low propensity voters out if he had a radical enough message. And I think he's sort of never gotten over that. So they're going like full white dude,
yeah,
right? And full masculine guy. And they're just totally doubling down on that. And now he's seeing that it's turning women off. So instead of being normal, he's decided he's going to say all these things about what he's going to do for women. And somehow, because he's so, such a brilliant politician, it will make women believe it.
So you bring up a really good point about the attitudes here. And Liz, I want to share this with you because despite his long track record of misogyny, he's actually gaining some support from women. And I want to read this 63-year-old woman and Trump supporter recently telling the Washington Post, "I'm a conservative and I'm a Christian, and I believe that the woman's role is to be protected by a man, and I believe God gave those roles, so that's not derogatory to a woman." That is anecdotal. It's not. I'm not trying to paint a broader brush here, or a broader picture, if you will, but there are people who have these views in this country, and that message will resonate with him. When a race is so close, he just needs to pick up a few thousand voters here and there.
Absolutely. And, white women particularly have often been foot soldiers for the patriarchy. It's sort of no surprise to hear a lot of women for who this message resonates. But, if I had to choose between being alone in a forest with a bear or Donald Trump, I would choose the bear every single time. And I'm sure that there are millions of women across the country and the world, I would argue, who feel the exact same way, because at least if the bear attacks me, he's not going to blame me for it or say that I was, too ugly to attack, which are things that Donald Trump has literally said about the women who have accused him of, one of which actually won her case against him. And so the idea that Donald Trump would be a protector to women is like a fox saying that he'll make sure that the hen house, stays unharmed. But the fox in this case has already wreaked havoc on the hen house and blamed the chickens for it. And the irony of ironies that I think is really important to point out is that, women, if there weren't men like Donald Trump in the world, women actually wouldn't require protection, right? So he's creating this role of protector for himself, but he's the cause of a lot of harm and need for women's protection, right, in today's society. And so it's, just another case of him causing the problem and then framing himself really as the solution to that problem.
Such a good point from Liz there about the rhetoric we're hearing from Trump. And there's something to be said here as well that, in some ways, perhaps in a twisted way, he's not just speaking to women, he's actually speaking to a specific type of man. There's a man out there who's going to see that and say, hey, I understand what Donald Trump is saying here and doing, and I share his worldview, because kind of what's implied is where the woman's role in society is, the way he talks about women in this kind of paternalistic way. Also, with the outlets that he's going on. He's not going on women-owned media outlets or women-focused podcasts to deliver this message. He's going on these very misogynistic, very bravado, all-male type of podcasts to discuss it.
Yeah, I really think women are an afterthought here for Trump, right? Like, he's seen the polling, he knows this is a problem, but he knows he can just pick, if he could just pick up a few, cut the margins, maybe he can eke it through. And I think, look, he should be worried about women voters. The fact that there are women voters who still want to vote for him is, considering that he did brag about ending Roe v. Wade, and we do see such powerful shifts towards voting on reproductive rights when it comes to ballot initiatives is kind of shocking to me. But it does seem that he's just I think he's just trying to pick up those voters in the margins.
Liz, your thoughts on this as well? I mean, Wired is making the connection between Trump, Vance, and Andrew Tate. And when it comes to their rhetoric, how does this fit into Trump's twisted, worldview on women?
Yeah, thank you for connecting those two issues. You know, so often we talk about women in one block and we talk about masculinity maybe later, and these issues are really connected, right? There's a lot of men who are suffering. There are a lot of men who feel alone, who feel lost, who feel disaffected in this country. You know, young men are more likely to be living with their parents than women are. Young men are more likely to take their own lives than women are. And so there's a real problem. And, you know, to Molly's point, I do think women are an afterthought for Trump. I think that men are an afterthought sometimes for Democrats. I think that Democrats have not gone as hard on this message in reaching men, particularly young men who are moving so fast to the right. You know, yes, Trump is offering this archaic, old school type of masculinity, this sort of fantasy of what you can be as a man to solve all of your problems. But Democrats have better policies for men, but they have to have a message, right, that's as good as, you know, the one on the right. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for Democrats to own this message and to be bold enough to speak to men and boys directly in the way that, you know, the right is doing, in a way that's on the nose. And to your point in your intro, I mean, they're pouring money into this.